Islam. Arise, giving the most high praise to Allah and the highest honors to his prophet, Prophet Noble Ali. I also like to extend honors to our Moorish flag, which reminds us of the standard which we as Moorish Americans are upheld to hold. Islam. I would like to start by reading from our Moorish American questionnaire. And I'll start with Key 7 that asks, what is the duty of a prophet? It says, to save the nations from the wrath of Allah. So as our brother chairman just demonstrated before you all walked in, the holiday of Easter is coming up. And he kind of demonstrated our understanding of Easter. We understand that our prophet Jesus, who we honor, what he died and he passed away and was resurrected, and he demonstrated what that resurrection means to us. So with that, I would like to read from chapter 17. And when you have it, please say Islam.
Islam.
Islam. So, and our Christian brothers and sisters, they understand that Jesus came to save them, which is not completely which is not inaccurate at all, because it says that our prophet gives us the Key 7 that says that a prophet is sent to save the nations from the wrath of Allah. So that's not completely inaccurate, but we have to understand what that saving power is. And I'll read starting at verse 9. And it says, in a moment Jesus stood before Apollo, the silent brotherhood, and said, behold, for I have risen from the dead with gifts for men. I bring to you the title of your vast estate. All power in heaven and earth is mine. To you I give all power in heaven and earth. Go forth and teach the nations of the earth the gospel and the resurrection of the dead and the eternal life through Jesus, the love of Allah made manifest to man. And then he clasped Apollo's hand and said, my human flesh was changed to higher form by love divine, and I can manifest in flesh or in higher planes or in the higher planes of life at will. What I can do, all men can do. Go teach the gospel of the omnipotence of man. Then Jesus disappeared, but Greece and Crete and all the nations heard. Claudius and Juliet, his wife, lived on the Palatine in Rome, and they were servants of Tiberius, but they had been in Galilee. Verse 17, had walked with Jesus by the sea, and had heard his words and seen his powers, and they believed that he was Jesus made manifest. Now Claudius and his wife were on the Tiber in a little boat. So this little boat represents a temporary salvation or a temporary redemption, which is similar to our condition here as Negro, Black, and colored in America. We make Negro, Black, and color, or we made Negro, Black, and color look really nice. Black power, it sounds good. It's not completely accurate, but it sounds good. It sounds like something that's very powerful. Black Lives Matter, that fad has caught on as well. Now Claudius and his wife were on the Tiber in a little boat, which represents a little like a temporary salvation or a temporary fix. A storm swept from the sea. The boat was wrecked, and Claudius and his wife were sinking down to death. So now we're in this condition where Negro, Black, and color is no longer working for us anymore. Our prophet came and removed those titles from us. And Jesus came and took them by the hands and said, Claudius and Juliet, arise and walk with me upon the waves. So this is Jesus raising Claudius and Juliet from the cares of the world and having them walk upon or master themselves, master their lower selves, and overcoming the cares of the world. And they arose and walked with him upon the waves. 1,000 people saw 3 walk on the waves and saw them reach the land, or reach salvation, which is represented on the cover of our 101s. The prophet has 1 foot on salvation and 1 foot still in the sea. And Jesus said, You men of Rome, I am the resurrection and the life. They that are dead shall live, and many that shall live will never die. By mouth of gods and demigods Allah spoke unto your fathers long ago, but now he speaks to you through perfect man. He sent his son, Jesus, in human flesh to save the world. And as I lifted from the watery grave and saved these servants of Tiberius, so Jesus will lift the sons and daughters of the human race, yea, every one of them, from darkness and from the graves of carnal things, to light and everlasting life. I am the manifest of love raised from the dead. Behold, my hands, my feet, my side, which carnal men have pierced. Claudius and Juliet, whom I have saved from death, are my ambassadors to Rome, and they will point the way and preach the gospel of the holy breath and the resurrection of the dead. And that was all he said, but Rome and all of Italy heard. Islam. The priests of Heliopolis were in the temple and met to celebrate the resurrection of their brother Nazarite. They knew that he had risen from the dead. The Nazarite appeared and stood upon the sacred pedestal on which no man had ever stood. This was an honor that had been reserved for him who first would demonstrate the resurrection of the dead. When Jesus stood upon the sacred pedestal, the master stood and said, All hail! The great bells of the temple rang, and all the temple was ablaze with light. And Jesus said, All honor to the masters of this temple of the sun. In flesh of man there is the essence of the resurrection of the dead. This essence is quickened by the holy breath. This essence quickened by the holy breath will raise the substance of the body to a higher tone and make it like the substance of the bodies of the planes above, which human eyes cannot behold. So this essence that we have inside of us, or this seed that we have inside of us, the seed of Allah that we have inside of us, coupled with truth or the holy breath, will resurrect us and bring us back to our highest state, to where we can regain our lost estate from where we fell.
Islam.
And then upon these pliant substances, Allah breathes. Or I skipped verse 37. There is a holy ministry in death. The essence of the body cannot be quickened by the holy breath until the fix is solved. The body must disintegrate, and this is death. So in that, we can't come into the temple, or we can't come into this truth, or we can't come into our vast estate, or we can't come into the highest plane, which is of spirit life, or the highest plane where Allah lives, until we get rid of things, until we purify ourselves, which is why in our Circle 7, John the Baptist represents purity made manifest to man. And so we have to remove certain things that we may be holding on to. We have to remove certain ideals that we still may be holding on to. I've been in this movement for quite some time now, and it's still things that I have in my mind that may be my own ideals. We have to take a step back and make sure that we're promoting the Prophet, and that we're promoting what Allah is speaking through his holy prophets, all of his holy and divine prophets. And then once we carve away our own desires or our own ideals, or make them one with Allah, it says, and then upon these pliant substances Allah breathes, just as he breathed upon the chaos of the deep when the worlds were formed, and life springs forth from death. The carnal form is changed to form divine. The will of man makes possible the action of the holy breath. When will of man and will of Allah are one, then resurrection is a fact. In this we have the chemistry of mortal life, the ministry of death, the ministry of death, and the mystery of deific life. My human life was wholly given, Jesus still speaking, my human life was wholly given to bring my will to tune with the deific will. When this was done, my earthly tasks were all done. And you, my brother, know full well the foes I had to meet. You know about my victories in Gethsemane, my trials in the courts of men, my death upon the cross. You know that all my life was one great drama for the sons of men, a pattern for the sons of men. I lived to show the possibilities of man. And I'll stop right there for a second. So Prophet Jesus says that he lived to show the possibilities of man. And that's how he came to save or to redeem the Israelites from the oppression of the pale-skinned nations that were governing a portion of Palestine at that time, by showing the possibilities of man. And if we teach that more to our Christian brothers and sisters, to live in a Christ-like manner, and live according to the way that Prophet Jesus lived, or to raise their minds even to that state where the Prophet Jesus' mind was raised to, then we would all probably be in a better condition. What I have done, all men can do, and what I am, all men shall be. The masters looked. The form upon the sacred pedestal had gone, but every temple priest and every living creature said, "Praise Allah." Islam. And that verse 45 is very powerful. It says, what I have done, all men can do, and what I am, all men shall be. It says that all men shall be. It doesn't say that all men may be. It says that everyone, whether you want the truth or you don't, is going to find you. And that's what our Prophet Jesus represents. Our Prophet Jesus represents justice, and justice will take its course whether we like it or not. Now, I also like to read key 28, which I kind of just went over a little bit. It said, why did Allah send Jesus to this earth? And the purpose was to save the Israelites from the iron hand oppression of the pale-skinned nations of Europe who were governing a portion of Palestine at that time. Islam. And the way that he did that, we just demonstrated that. But to furthermore reiterate it, I'll read key 40. This is speaking on our prophet to us, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, but it can also be applied to Prophet Jesus as well. It says, what is our prophet to us? Or what was Jesus to the Israelite nation? What is our prophet to us? He is an angel of Allah who was sent to bring the everlasting gospel of Allah. Key 41. What is the everlasting gospel of Allah? Or what is the everlasting gospel? It is a saving power that comes from Allah through our ancient fathers by his prophet. What is the covenant of the great God Allah? Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earthland which the Lord thy God Allah hath given me. So in our keys, it also gives the genealogy of Prophet Jesus, which is very important as well. It's very important for us to be able to trace ourselves back, because we can't know our obligation, we can't know our duties, we can't have a clear conception of the work that we're called to do without knowing where we descend from. So that's very important. You can't have an inheritance if you don't know where your inheritance is coming from. We claim our vast estate, but we have to live according to our mothers and fathers before us. Islam. And with that, I leave you all as I came, in peace. Islam.